Welcome to PHP Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're here for a Monday mini-sode.
Yeah, Monday minis are where we give you a whole bunch of information in a shorter amount of time. So if you haven't been listening to our long form, hour plus podcast or YouTube videos, go check those out because we have a whole, process routine we go through. We have like a show style that we follow and we talk for an hour. But this, we typically go like 10 minutes and we're trying to kind of focus in on one thing, one topic that's important for resellers. And so we love our Monday minis. And today we're talking about 5 mistakes that a lot of new eBay resellers make. And we're going to talk about these mistakes so that you know how to avoid them. Maybe you're still making these mistakes. Maybe you've made them and learned from them. And if we miss any, if you think of any other mistakes, go ahead and put them in the comments below. So subscribe to our channel, and then also put in the comments, what do you think, maybe even before you listen, what do you think the top 5 mistakes are? What were some of the mistakes you made as a new eBay seller? Let us know in the comments below. What do we got for us?
So this was a hard one because when I thought about this, I make plenty of mistakes now as an experienced seller. So I was thinking, okay, what were the mistakes I made when I was a new seller? And my store right now, being that I never, donate stuff and I just keep it listed till it sells, I would say my store, probably 5% of it is junk I shouldn't have picked up.
Stuff from those first couple of years.
Yeah, that just have been in my store, and when they sell, I'm like, wow, that's awesome that's sold. But I would buy emotionally, and what I mean by emotionally is I wouldn't look up comps. And again, this was hard because we're so used to talking about looking up comps on eBay and checking sell-through rate, but I would say if you're brand new, you probably don't even know what we're talking about when we say sell-through rate, right? Maybe even the word comps, you're like, I've never heard of that, right? But when you first start reselling, it's very easy to find stuff and you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. This will probably sell for good money.
Yeah. I remember when I first started reselling before the podcast, and I really started reselling through the podcast, but I tried eBay on my own years before. I told the story if you listen to the podcast, but I went to a couple of garage sales, and this was before I had a cell phone, but I didn't have like a smartphone, so I couldn't do eBay comps at the time. And somebody just told me, yeah, you can buy all kinds of stuff at garage sales and sell it on eBay. And so some places I'd go to the garage sale, I'd drive home, I'd try to look up comps, but a lot of times I would just see like, oh, look, a mug, a 49ers mug. I love the 49ers.
Yeah.
Football is important. Yep. I bet you I could pick this up for $1 and sell it for $15-$20 just to get it home and to look it up on eBay and realize, oh, this is just kind of like a cheap, everybody, all the fans that went one day got, like, it's not like a really expensive name brand.
It's a game day. Like,
yeah, it's just something cheap. It's not really worth that much. Yeah. And so, but that emotional buy of like, you see something, you like it, you think, oh, maybe it's going to sell. You don't know enough about the market. You don't know enough about, how hard is this thing going to be to take pictures of? What things should I be looking for that's wrong with it? I remember even when I first started and you told me about VCRs and DVD players, I was like, every time I saw a VCR, I'm like, yeah, VCR, I know these sell for a bunch. And so I was picking them all up and I was kind of buying emotionally, not recognizing, okay, there's a lot of work behind testing them, and then shipping them is a little bit harder than other things.
The brands matter.
And so you definitely buy a lot emotionally when you're new.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So, in case you're new and you're watching this for the first time, and this is your first reselling YouTube, comps are basically, you look up sold. Sold is what matters on eBay. And then sell-through rate is basically how many are listed and how many sell. If there's a ton that are listed and haven't sold, it's probably not a good idea to pick it up. But if there's, on the other end, there's only like 1 or 2 listed that haven't sold, but a bunch have sold, it's probably a great item to pick up. So just something to take a look at.
Yeah. Our next one is not listing enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we hear this a lot from people who first start. And even me, when I first started, no, if you're really new to eBay, I think there's something in the algorithm that pushes new people to like get that dopamine rush. Oh, my item sold. But when you have 5 items listed, and you think that's a lot, or 10 or 15. I remember when I got like 15 items listed, I'm like, man, I'm like doing eBay. Like I started by selling like 3 things I had in my house. And then now I went to thrift stores and I've got like 15 items listed. And then you sit and you wait and you're like, man, nothing's selling. Maybe I'm not good at eBay. Maybe I'm not good at reselling. Maybe I shouldn't keep doing this. But it's because I just didn't have enough things listed. Like those things have all sold over time. Mm-hmm. But had I had 100 items, once I had 100 items, I'm like, man, things are selling. Once I had 500 items, things really started moving. And part of it is because I have more things people are looking for. And the other thing is, eBay is seeing I'm an active store. And I remember I told you, like, I listed like 5 things today. And you're like, all right, make sure you keep listing 5 things every day. And I'm like, what? That seems impossible.
Yeah. And it's hard because, you get into reselling, and usually, and I think this is true. Mike and I have talked about how we believe eBay hooks you in. Like, they put your items higher in the search if you're brand new, just to get you, that dopamine rush of you selling a few items. But, after the first 2, you're expecting the same success with the other few handful of items you have listed. You're like, oh, these will sell within a week, just like these other 2. And then a week passes, and 2 weeks passes, and then 3 weeks passes, and you're like on a YouTube comment board, or you're DMing a reseller on social media going, hey, why isn't my stuff selling? Like, it's a good items. I picked it up. And the answer most of the time is going to be is like, you don't have enough items either listed in your store, or you have not been consistently listing. And so eBay isn't seeing activity on your account. So be aware of that.
Yeah.
Now, shipping's another thing that as a new seller, it can definitely kill your margins, right? Not understanding that it's good to take measurements and the weight of items, that the surest way to protect yourself from losing money is to do calculated shipping. But there's also ways that you can make money on shipping, like using a padded priority envelope, which unless you're a reseller, I don't know how many people know about those envelopes.
Yeah.
Right? Padded priority, it's exactly what it sounds. It's a priority envelope that's padded.
Or not knowing to ship yourself and instead going to the post office or going to a UPS store and having them do the shipping. I when I first started selling, when I sold a few big things, I went to the UPS store and I'm like, all right, I need to sell this thing. And I remember the first time they were like, all right, well, we need this kind of box and this kind of bubble wrap. And it's going to be, $45 to ship this. And I'm like, I charged $8 for shipping. Like, what in the world? And not knowing things like pirate ship, not knowing how to do my own,
or just printing
labels.
through eBay.
Yep, exactly.
Like,
and so not knowing those things, I lost a lot of money.
I remember those days. I remember I actually was selling more on Amazon before I sold on eBay, and I sold a lot of textbooks. And I remember going to the post office to pay for my label. I mean, this was the days when I think Amazon let you get away with that. And I think now, like, how much money did I lose, and how much time did I lose? So just be aware that, make sure you understand shipping.
Yeah. The next one is not shipping globally. I remember you were shipping global shipping program, GSP, well before I was. Mm-hmm. And I had a few items. And you're like, you got to sign up for GSP. And I was nervous. I was like, man, I don't know if I want to sell like globally. It seems like there's a lot of hassle involved. And you said a couple of those items, you're like, I bet those will go globally. And I think I still owe you lunch on one of them, because I had a Mac hat that I paid 50 cents for and sold for
it was the Windows or Mac?
It was Mac.
Okay.
Yeah, I sold a Mac. I sold a Windows hat too, but the Mac hat was the one I paid 50 cents for, and it sold for like, I don't know, it was like $112 or $120. It was over $100.
I remember.
And it went global shipping. And so just to think, man, like, sure enough, I listed it and that sold fast global shipping. And you said a lot of my big items would, and a lot of my big items did. And so I wasted months of not doing global shipping program just because I was already struggling with shipping. Like I was going to the post office and I was using the kiosk to print shipping labels. And to me, the idea of like, am I going to have to do like, dealing with customs? Then you're like, no, global shipping's not that bad. And I'm like, well, then now I have to go onto eBay and change all these things. And when I finally did it and those sales started to come in, and I was like, I should have done this earlier.
Yeah. And there's different tiers, like for myself, eBay global shipping was the easiest. And I find that to me is still the greatest protections out of all of them. Then there's eBay standard, international standard, and still same protection. The only difference is that they have to pick it up from customs. And so you run into some problems. And then you could also do pirate ship, simple export. That's another option, right? So if you haven't, you are losing, I would say, on big sales, because most of my international sales are the big money sales. This last year, I would say maybe only one of my huge, like multiple $100, almost $1,000 sales was domestic. Everything else was global, right? Because if they're buying globally and they're able to pay for the shipping, they're going to be able to pay for the big money items. So Don't lose out on that money. Now, this last one is very easy to do, because as a new reseller, you're probably on YouTube, you're probably listening to the podcast, you're like, why am I not doing as well as this person? Why am I not at this level? And it's very easy to do that. I still struggle with that sometimes. And I think what leads to a lot of it is, a lot of YouTubers are very much like, if you want to be successful, you will have to do it this way. And I think there's some truth to that. But if you're being successful doing it your own way, it's okay to learn from others, but don't try to be that person.
Yeah, right. To try to follow in and do the exact niches they do, because maybe they have a setup or they already have knowledge or they have connections that you might not have. So if you already have connections in your niche, things that you understand. And then the other thing too, we talk about a lot in the podcast is you might look at their numbers. Look at my 90-day total and you're like, man, I'm not there. I'm not selling what they're selling. But you don't know. Those numbers lie because you don't know the cost of goods. You don't know their shipping costs. You don't know what their net is. You see in the gross. And so the hard part is it's easy to compare. And a lot of times people are only, and there's a few podcasts like us, we will show our failures. We will show, this was a bad month. This is, we don't show numbers always, but, we've only had, 10 sales this week. Whereas most people who are posting on Instagram and Facebook, they're wanting to do the highlights, just like they don't show all of the problems in their life and family, but they show when they're on vacation. It's the same thing with reselling. So it's easy to compare yourself with other people and say, I'm not having the success they're having. Well, they either, one, might not actually have the success that you think they have, or two, they've been doing it for years and years and know their niche. They've made the connections, and you might get there, and you'll get there if you've got focus and dedication. But don't compare yourself to the point where you're putting yourself down and you give up hope.
Yeah, and there's a lot of successful people. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of successful people you should listen to, right? But again, you don't know everybody's circumstances. Mike and I both have growing kids. I have teenagers now, and my time isn't the same as, the 20, 30-year-old guy that has no kids and no wife and is able to devote as much time as possible, right? And I could go like, wow, look at their numbers. But at the same time, it's like, okay, what did it take to get to those numbers? I don't know if I could facilitate that. You just have to make sure in your own that you are being successful. Are you buying low and are you selling high? Are you selling consistently? If you're going full time, are you able to pay your bills and some more? If you're able to do all that, then you start looking at this and going, okay, what can I implement from these different models that I'm looking that'll be successful for me? But not every single model is the best case scenario for everyone. So as a new reseller, it's easy to compare, but just take a look at it this way, that everybody can get to those certain levels. There's different obstacles to get there. And you got to figure out whether you're going to be the person that goes through those obstacles or are you going to choose a different path. All right. Hopefully all these helped you as a new seller, right? Make sure you're not buying emotionally. Make sure you're listening consistently. Make sure you understand shipping and you're shipping globally. And again, you're not comparing yourselves to others. And with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Peace.